Does Matthew 5:44, love your enemy, talking about the heathens? Is Matthew 5:44, love your enemy, means heathens? So we're going to kind of get this squared out. Let's get Matthew 5:43.
Matthew chapter 5, verse 43. Yea, ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the...
Stop there, go ahead. So it say, love your enemies. When it say love your enemies in Matthew 5:44, this is not talking about the heathens. This is not talking about the heathens in Matthew 5:44. So let's go over. When it say love your enemies, this is talking about the enemies of your people. This is talking about the enemies of your people. So let's jump into it. Go to Exodus 23. Exodus 23. And let's hit verse 4.
Exodus chapter 23 and verse 4. If thou meet thy enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again.
So he said, if you meet your enemy's ox that's going astray, you got to bring it back to him. This is a commandment. If you meet your enemy's ox, bring it back to him. Verse 5.
If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden.
So it said, if you see the ass of somebody that hate you, if this is somebody that hate you, then that's your enemy. Somebody that hates you. If you see their ass lying somewhere, go ahead.
And wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help.
You say you got to help him. This is where Christ is getting that from. He said, no, you have to help your enemy. Now, is this enemy your brother? Let's get a precept. Go to Deuteronomy 22. Let's get a precept to see is this your brother. Deuteronomy 22 and 4.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 4. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ass or his ox fall down by the way.
He said, thou shalt not see who?
Thou shalt not see thy brother's ass.
It say brothers. The last scripture is saying enemy. This scripture precept is saying brothers. So that enemy that it was referring to is your brother, your people. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not see thy brother's ass or his ox fall down by the way, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt surely help him to lift them up again.
That's what we just read in Exodus 23. But in Exodus 23, it didn't use the word brother. It used the word enemy or somebody that hate you. So now let's get some more. Go to Proverbs 25. Proverbs 25 and 21.
Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 21. If thine enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat.
What did he say?
If thine enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat.
So he say, if your enemy be hungry, do what? Feed him. Go ahead.
And if he be thirsty, give him water to drink.
Go ahead.
For thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord shall reward thee.
So it say, just because your enemy hates you, you don't have to hate them. Because if you doing good to that person and they still hate you, the Most High go heap coals of fire on that person's head, and you gonna be rewarded. Christ wasn't teaching nothing new. He just understood the scriptures. He said, no, love your enemy, but it's still talking about your people, your people that hate you. So now let's get some more. Go to 2 2 John 6, because it said love your enemy. So now what is love? Love your enemy. So what is love? 2 John 1 and 6.
2 John chapter 1 and verse 6. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, ye should walk in it.
We go to 1 John 5 and 2.
1 John chapter 5 and verse 2. By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments.
All right.
For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous.
So we understand that love is the keeping of the commandments to your people. So if love is keeping the commandments, when it say love your enemies, it's saying keep the commandments with your enemies. So what's the greatest sign of love? Besides dying for somebody, what's the greatest sign of showing love? Go to Leviticus 19 and 17. This is the greatest sign of love that you can show somebody.
Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
So it say, read 17 again.
Verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him.
So the greatest love you can show somebody is rebuking them when they in sin. That's you trying to save their life. So in Matthew 5, when it say love your enemies, do you rebuke the heathens in sin? If you see an Edomite eating a pork chop, are you going to say, hey, you're not supposed to be eating that? The law says we can't eat pork. It's an abomination. That's love your enemies, right? If that's what it's talking about in Matthew 5:44, that means you have to rebuke the heathen when you see them sinning. That's going off because they don't get judgment for sin. So when it say love your enemies, they is not talking about the heathens. Because who in here gonna be rebuking Edomites for eating pork? They can eat it. Let's get there. Psalm 147. Give verse 19.
Psalm chapter 147 and verse 19. He sheweth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel.
So his statutes and his judgment unto Israel. Go ahead.
He has not dealt so with any nation.
Don't no other nation know the statutes or the judgments. Go ahead.
And as for his judgments.
As for his judgments, judgments mean the penalty for sin. Go ahead.
They have not known this.
They have what?
They have not known
They
this.
don't get judgment for sin. They don't get judgment for sin. So how can you rebuke them? That's the greatest love you can show somebody, is rebuking them when they in sin. But if the laws wasn't given to them, how can you rebuke them? Go to Amos 3. Amos 3 and 3.
Amos chapter 3.
2, my bad.
Amos chapter 2.
3 and 2.
Amos chapter 3 and 2. You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity.
We get punished for sin. We get punished. So when it say love your enemies, that's not talking about the heathens. Because the greatest show of love is correction. The greatest show of love is rebuke and not suffer sin upon them. How can you rebuke somebody that is no judgment for sin? So Matthew 5 and 44 is not talking about the heathens. But where do the heathens come in at? Go to Isaiah 49. Isaiah 49 and 6.
Isaiah chapter 49 and verse 6. And he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved of Israel.
Go ahead.
I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles.
So we are a light to the heathens. We are supposed to be a light to the heathens. Go ahead.
That thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth.
So we are a light to the heathens. So so what do that mean to be a light? Go to Romans 12. Romans 12 and 18.
Romans chapter 12 verse 18. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men.
That's where it goes into with the heathens. Live peaceably with all men. Now, another proof is read it over.
Romans chapter 12 verse 18. If it be possible.
If it be possible, go ahead.
As much as lieth in you.
As much as lie in you. Meaning, in Matthew 5:43, it say, love your enemies. That's not a suggestion, that's a commandment, right? This said, as if it's possible, live peaceably with the Arabs. Live peaceably with the Edomites. But it's meaning it's gonna be hard because they hate you. But if it's possible, as much as it is in you, live peaceably with all men. So Matthew 5 and 44 is not talking about the heathens. Because you don't have to rebuke. If we got to love our heathens, if we say love your heathens, you have to rebuke them. And the only time we can rebuke them is when we in power. Because then they have to keep the laws. But until that time, we don't have to that's like telling people you have to rebuke Edomites for sin. You have to rebuke Ishmaelites for sin. That's what love your people means. So when they say love your enemies, that means you have to rebuke them as well. So that's how it proves that that's not talking about the heathens.